Hey there, guys, and how's it going? Welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We're back again to talk more TNA wrestling, and we are looking at the results from TNA Rebellion. By God, what a show this was. They got me several times in this show, punked me out. I thought I got it. I thought, that was it. And no, here's more stuff. The one thing that I wanted, I was like, yes. And then they just piled absolutely more stuff on this. This was an amazing card of great matches and just great returns and just surprises after surprises, and things. This whole show was just so amazing, and like every time that they do these big shows, even the smaller shows like the B shows or the C shows or the D shows or whatever you want to call them, they still do really great stuff. And even if like some of the stuff is somewhat predictable to an extent, like anything can happen in professional wrestling. You never know. And I don't want to say it, but they could have done something that I wouldn't have really liked them to have done. But I'm so glad that they didn't, because this tells such a great story and it helps everyone out, I think. So we will go through it match by match from the beginning. I know people are hyped from like the end of it. I'm hyped from a lot of little things from the show, but I want to start from the beginning with the Rascals versus ABC and Leon Slater. I felt like these guys would, tear the house down, and I think that should be their mindset as well. That was their mindset here, to try to tear the house down with what time they were given, and they did a really good job. I think they made a lot of people decide to buy into the show, and that's their job. The pre-show, the buy-in, that's the whole idea of these free previews of the show. They're not just because, we don't have enough space, they don't, but they don't value these guys or don't value them enough to be on the main show. No, they value them so much that they're like, no, we need you guys front and center. We need you guys to get people to buy this show, because they see you guys and are like, damn, I need to buy this damn show because it's going to be freaking lit. That's the idea. And somebody's got to be on the pre-show, or some people are going to be on the pre-show. So, sometimes that's some of the guys that, are really like guys that are, primed and getting ready to be, up there and doing some great stuff. But this one was, fairly fast-paced match, great action. I was like, I guess thinking that this probably wouldn't have much time, and a lot of the matches on the pre-show don't really have a lot of time. But yeah, this one was pretty good, because again, the fact that it's fairly fast-paced, it doesn't feel too bad when you have this fast-paced match and everything's kind of moving along and clipping along, and you don't ever feel like, oh man, it didn't have enough time. You kind of feel like it kind of could have had a little bit more time, but it really wrapped itself up pretty well with the time that it was kind of given. So they did good here. The Swanton 450, highlight here from Leon Slater winning the match for Ace and Bay and Slater himself, which was great there. And again, it leads more into some more stuff for Leon with the Rascals and whatnot. That's where I think he's going to kind of fit in for now. Now that we've seen the upcoming shows, I didn't really think too hard about it. I kind of forgot that this match was happening. Or maybe it was before this match was announced. I can't really remember. But yeah. Anyway, or probably wouldn't have been, but I just probably forgot. But anyway, there was a lot of promos and interviews and whatnot on the pre-show. And I think they did that because of how they were trying to sort of end the pre-show and whatnot, because usually you get a lot of preamble and whatnot before the main show. But they do put some video packages and whatnot together, but you don't usually get this many interviews and that sort of thing on the pre-show and whatnot. So it did sort of surprise me. Mean Gia Miller interviewed Rich Swann. Oh no. What? It says Joe Hendry and Rich Swann with what? Just the way that they've written this sounds like they're all like, what? I don't know. This doesn't make any sense. But I think it was Dollar and Swan that were gotten interviewed here ahead of their upcoming match with Joe Hendry. Just the way that this is written, because it's like Joe Hendry and Rich Swann with, a set for action. It should say, Rich Swann with AJ are set for action with Joe Hendry or against Joe Hendry or whatever. I don't know. This just weird, like the way it's written there. But whatever. The digital media title, I didn't really go in this thinking that it would come out this way, but I'm not upset that it came out this way. I'm kind of interested to see what they can kind of do with it. It's one of those things that it's tough. It's very tough that you don't know if you're the idea to pull the trigger on somebody is going to work out. And sometimes it's not just in the win that matters. Sometimes, you pull the trigger on something and you go, are people that into it? Well, you know what? Instead of, us asking, whether people are into it, let's make them into it. Let's, give them, something really big, something really important else to really dig into this and really, make this, more important, more impactful, more meaningful. And, this was a pretty okay match, I guess. Really focused around Laredo's mask. And Crazy Steve trying to take the mask off of Laredo, and Laredo seemingly trying to control his rage of Crazy Steve, trying to remove his mask and all of that throughout, which sort of kind of became the story at the end of their last match. But yeah, I'm surprised with the result of this one. You can check out the highlight here of Laredo Kid hitting the Spanish Fly, which led to him picking up the win and the digital media champion. He is the hashtag new digital media champion. It'll be interesting to see what they kind of do with him as the digital media champion, and where it kind of goes from here. Because it's very tough to sometimes divide and define who's in what division sometimes. And sometimes that can be good, because you can sort of float people between divisions as it sort of suits. But you start thinking about other, because obviously he's going to face Crazy Steve. But at this point, since he's won the title, it feels like, well, is there any real point in putting it back on Steve, especially so quickly? Probably not. They could do that at some point down the road, but I don't think that they should do it in in such short order after this. But then are you going to have Steve sitting around for weeks or months on end or whatever without challenging or re-challenging for the title? I don't know. You'd really need a lot of other people to kind of go up for him to go up against and kind of do more with. So it's interesting to think about, but we'll have to keep thinking and waiting and seeing on that. But still, like, you start immediately thinking, okay, who can he work with and who can he do some stuff with after he's like either done with Crazy Steve in a rematch or just after this, because we want to see something else, not just have Steve lose twice or whatever. But then again, it's like Steve is a veteran, like, or fairly a veteran now, or becoming one. So it's getting tougher and tougher to be him, because he's being sort of starting to get pushed into that, well, you're here more so to help get other people over role. And in a sense, that is like professional wrestling at its core. Like, you're almost always getting other people over, but you're almost, never the real focus. Even when you are the champion, like Laredo will be here to be the guy who puts somebody else over. Kind of really want, someone like Leo Rush to come back or something like that. I don't know, dude. Like, that'd be cool, honestly. Like, I almost want to see Steve Macklin win this title, actually. That'd be kind of all right, I think. And then start building towards a world, back to that world title at some point. But that'd give him something to do, somewhere to be. Interesting. Steph DeLander had a promo backstage and revealed her new backup, which was the Good Hands. So yeah. Knockouts, tag team titles. Pretty decent, good match here. A few things that sort of kind of went sideways a little bit, but like it's all right. It's like one of those things that makes the match and the fights look better sometimes. Like, it didn't hear that much because it was a bit awkward, but like, instead of like it being all pretty and too choreographed, it looks like these guys are like kind of fighting and whatnot. So yeah, but yeah, the outcome didn't really surprise me. I didn't feel like they were gonna hot potato the titles. I didn't think it made any sense to do it. Like, again, you sort of start feeling like DK, Rosemary, and Havoc are in this role of the veterans of the locker room who are kind of just there to hold the hot plate sometimes, but mainly there to put other people over for the most part, so that you can build stories around them and build them up so that you can get them to being more important later on down the track and whatnot. So and you just need to give those guys wins and important stuff to kind of do, and that fan investment to some extent, some description, and whatnot. I don't know, like, I almost feel like same thing with Threat. Like, she's somewhat older, so I feel like she kind of like will be the one coming out of this, if at some point later on down the track that these guys are kind of split up, which probably they will be at some point. Like a lot of the tag teams besides Decay, it feels like the tag division is very like, we'll throw people together 1 week and we'll see how it goes and hope for the best and whatnot. So But yeah, they do the best of which what they can, but they just really don't have enough people here to do it. Highlight here of Jody Threat wiping out DK and still the knockout tag champs, Spitfire. Good for them. And at the end, Marsha Slamovich came out, but she wasn't alone. Alicia Edwards also came out to stare down the tag champs. Now, again, this is kind of like my feeling of like the tag team division. Perhaps in this case, like I said, it probably needs more people, but like honestly, like the same thing for like the singles division. Like you can't just scrap singles competitors to fight in the tag team division, and you shouldn't scrap tag teams to just fight in the singles division either. So you've got to really have a good deep tag team division of knockouts to really help it keep going, rather than just giving them titles to fight over and something to do. You could just be, filling out that, mid card to upper mid card of, people who are vying for the Knockouts Championship. And yes, that takes away some opportunities for some people to kind of really showcase some stuff like DK and whatnot. But like again, it's so goddamn tough when you don't have enough teams. And like I feel like Marsha and Alicia are both girls who should be like challenging Jordan Grace for the Knockouts title. Like, so that you've got that impetus again there. That should make some sense, but they shouldn't really be doing it this way. It doesn't really make much sense, but like they're just throwing it together because again, like they feel like, oh man, we've got to have something for these tag team division guys. When that's gonna happen, probably at Under Siege, I guess. I don't see them winning, honestly. Like I kind of want, as I said, want to see Marsha and Alicia going for like singles titles anyway. So it'd make more sense to me if they were going for those singles titles again, because that singles division does need more bodies as well. So especially since a lot of them are tied up in the tag team division, but yeah, whatever. Some of Mustafa Ali's followers came in to interrupt the broadcast, saying, hey, Jake can't wrestle for that X Division title, starting to hold up the show and sitting in the ring. Dina came out to ask the crowd if he wants to force them out or let them stay, and the crowd said, kick them the frick out. So Dina kicked them the frick out. The national anthem wasn't sung. It was played on guitar. Since I'm not from the US, actually, most people in the US probably don't know the lines to this song anyway, but still, like, I guess that's probably the idea that he didn't know most of the lines to the song, or he couldn't sing. I don't know. Or he's not a singer, so he just, played the guitar for the national anthem. That's kind of cool, something a little bit different. You don't have to do it the same way every time. That's kind of cool. Rebellion is now. Save 25% with the code. It's probably already expired. First match was the X Division title match between Mustafa Ali and Jake something. I still wanted to see, Jake pull out more X Division style stuff kind of in this match. I get he's a powerhouse and that's what he is and that's what he should do. But if he's going to be in this division, which I guess I don't think he's going to be after this, then I want to see more of that. But again, based on him losing this match, I don't see it. It was a very sort of uphill battle for Mustafa Ali throughout this whole match to seemingly get advantages on Jake something. When he did, it didn't sort of last long. He focused on the neck a fair bit, causing some issues there for Jake, and that sort of led to a lot of spots that that Mustafa Ali could take advantage of, which really helped him out. But he was able to get a roll-up pin and trap him with holding the ropes to steal the victory. So, I don't know, you could say that this isn't over, I guess. Like, because he cheated to win. I don't know, dude. Like, at the end of the day, you just, in some ways, got to move on from things sometimes. And you can't, like, some feuds or some things you need to keep going. I don't think this needs to keep going. Like, I don't. Like, if it keeps going, I won't be pissed or I won't make a fuss or whatever. But, like, I don't see it. I don't see that this is what they should be doing with him. But even then, it's like, now it's kind of tough because that upper card where I thought he should be and I thought he could have a chance to be is getting a bit crowded. So we're going to talk more about that as we go along. But highlights of this German suplex on the apron. This was pretty brutal here. And still your X Division champion, Mustafa Ali. This guy, NFL linebacker Shane Merriam, I don't know. No clue who he is. Sorry to those people who know exactly who this guy is and know all about him and blah, blah, blah. I have no clue. I'm not even in the US. So, again, I've got no clue who this guy is. Like a lot of the people that were in First Class's Entourage, I have no clue who these people are. I'm sure some people know who they are. Same with, like, the guy who played the national anthem, no clue who he is. When they said, what's his name, who was escorting Spitfire, was from Rancid, I was like, that guy, okay. I was like, okay. Now I know, because I don't know the names of a lot of the people that are, like, in these bands and stuff like that, so, but whatever. The Joe Hendry came out for his match with First Class, and look, if you haven't seen this AI graphics of Rich Swann and AJ playing through Joe Hendry's theme song, it's incredible. It's great. It's the best thing ever. It's hilarious. It's silly. It's great. It was a decent match between these two. And I think it went the way I felt like it would go. So, hey, I got another one. I missed a couple. I missed one or so, I think, so far. So, but that's okay. Like, again, it's not about, like, whether I'm right or wrong that much, like, I guess. But still, like, it's cool to be right and cool to be like, yeah, I got that right. Man, huzzah, whatever. Or I got that wrong. Oh, okay, cool. Whatever. But still, like, I'm glad that they're telling a good story here. And it's interesting to see where this is going to go. Here's a highlight of getting Striderman getting blindsided by Joe Hendry. And then our boy here, blindsiding Joe Hendry. Yeah. So, after all of that, after him sort of saving Joe, he blindsides him and turns his back on him. But whatever. I know he kind of needs help, I guess. But we'll have to wait and see where that goes and continues. Eric Young versus Kaz, the Full Metal Mayhem. This got violent from the get-go. Like a lot of the matches that were after this got violent pretty much from the get-go. And was more of a fight than it was a wrestling match. Now, there was a lot of good spots in it and whatnot. But the last spot, like, very reminiscent somewhat of Laredo's match with Crazy Steve, with the ending with the Spanish Fly effectively from the top by Kaz, but EY hitting his head on the table and making him bleed from the back of the head there. That was a bit scary. So Kaz gets the win here. I'm not certain. Like, I wasn't certain about that. I was like, dude, what are you doing that for? Like, that doesn't seem to make much sense to me, but I guess it makes sense with a lot of the other things that are happening on this card, or a lot of the returns and whatnot and debuts that are kind of happening on this card. So, but this was such a great fight back and forth between these two. Fun spots and fun stuff going all throughout it. You can see here Frankie Kazarian sending a highlight of through the table after he pulled out Janice. That's what this thing's name is, Janice. I don't know what it was called in AEW, and I don't care. It's still Janice. Like, when I saw it, I said Janice. Like on AEW, trolling them because they're trying to copy us. But they can't copy us, no matter how hard they try. But yet somehow they're, right now at least, in a better position than what TNA is in. But still, like, I still prefer TNA and will still watch it and, still enjoy it. And I still think they put on some really great work, and they actually put on innovative work. They came up with this thing way before AEW ever did, and they have the rightful ability to use it. AEW doesn't have the rightful ability to use it just because they decided to use it. Hey, we have the historical rights to use it because it was our thing first. So we have the rights to use it. Anyway, Nick Nemeth had a promo interview backstage. He's had a few promo interviews around, and I thought, a lot of his promo work was pretty good and really sold the story. And that's the thing, this was dictated on real things that everybody kind of knows about Nick Nemeth or Dolph Ziggler, his history and that. And that's the thing, you've got to play off of that. You've got to work with that because that's a real story and people know it. So there's no getting away from that story since people already know it. So you really need to dive right into it. And they dove right into that story. And it's got real emotions and got real things behind it, to draw the fans right into the story. Steve Macklin came out to announce that he's re-signed with TNA Wrestling, which is good. We want to keep him around. He's very, very good, and he's got a great future ahead of him. I think in TNA, I don't think that he'd be as good anywhere else. I don't think, at least that's just my opinion. I don't think you could see him in AEW and he'd do well. Not that he's a bad worker or whatever else, any of that. I just don't think that they would push him and put him in the positions that TNA does. And yes, they sort of put him in a position here where he's on the receiving end of a bit of an L, but hey, they're still going to try to keep him up there, and they're still going to try to keep doing stuff with him. And, I know that they're going to, figure something out with him and for him. They're not just signing him for signing him's sake. They wouldn't do that. And since, again, the checkbook is a little bit lighter than what it was, seems like that they've used some of that money, and they've used it pretty wisely. Now, we've been a bit tentative on Anthem and their decisions on where the whole idea that they had of saying, no, we want to cut the budget and we want to run it lean, and we want to be making as much as possible off of it, and having that old saying, well, you got to spend money to make money, buddy. It doesn't make money without you spending money on it. So it looks like they've done some things pretty smart, and we'll talk about a couple more after this, that are good for the business or good for TNA. And this is the first banger. This is the thing that I wanted. the most, I think, out of this, and I talked about it before on a recent-ish episode, I guess. Mike Santana made his return, and what a return, baby! He came back and he beat Steve Macklin here in a fairly quick match. Pretty simple and basic match as well, but I think that the card was so stacked, and they didn't have a lot of time, and they wanted to just give Santana a pretty big win and give him this big rub and kind of just make this statement of this guy is back, this guy is here, and he's coming. He's not just Nick Aldis or whatever, who sort of stood back and made his intentions clear, but it's well, he hasn't had a match and he hasn't had a big win and that sort of thing for the most part. Whereas Santana, he's just come back, he's just got a big win, and oh my god, and he's already got a T-shirt, so that's great. And I'm glad he's back. This is what I wanted, like I said, and he's back home, man. He's back home. And the promo that he did, you can find it on TNA's socials. The exclusive promo backstage after this, saying, he's coming for people's spots. Good. We need more people that are in this show to, carry the company and, keep the momentum going. You can see the highlights of the promo that he cut here. Gian Miller interviewed the System, who were feeling confident before their matches. And up came the World Tag Team title matches. I didn't really expect this match to not be good, but I didn't expect it to be as good as what I think it was. Certainly, it's not the greatest tag team match of all time or whatever, but it's still really a good tag team match. These guys put on quite a show, and lots of interesting stuff and great spots, and they've had that first combo, effectively, the System of, the back stunger into Brian Myers' elbow fail now twice, and them have to go to the other combo finisher. I almost feel like they almost should have done it the other way in some way. I don't know how they would have done that, but they should have had their first combo, i.e. the knee drop and roster cut, or knee smash and roster cut first, and then gone to this, I think, just to kind of, vary up which finisher kind of got the job done and which one got kicked out of. But I guess it was something to do with positioning and things like that, or whatever, that they had to do it this way. I don't know. But still, I feel like when you've got a tag team finisher move, you should have that protected, or should try to protect it, so that you again, don't have it get kicked out of this, because people will just start expecting it to be kicked out of. But yeah, it's tough to do that sometimes, because you're trying to tell a specific story, or you're just in specific positions, so it just doesn't work quite the way you want it to kind of work. Highlight here of Speedball Bailey being on fire, but unfortunately it wasn't enough, and Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards took the win, and still they are your World Tag Team Champions, the System. Hammerstone and Alexander. By God, this was hard-hitting and violent. Jesus. Hammerstone mostly using like Josh's headgear to attack him and even bust him open at one point in this match over the ear, even attacking the ear, attacking his equilibrium, which is kind of smart, actually, honestly, as well, to soften up Josh Alexander to maybe make him not answer the 10 count. That was some good work and good psychology and good storytelling there. And this was just a fight. This was just great. This was just amazing fight between these two. Hammerstone with a lot of the power moves, Josh with a lot of like leverage wrestling sort of moves, and momentum changing sort of stuff here and there, and that sort of thing. One very close 10 count that almost got to the 10 count was where Josh Alexander was on the mat, seemingly knocked completely out, but he rolled to the outside at the count of 9 and got back up. So yeah, that was like one of those classic spots that a few people have done. But yeah, like it's great to sort of see that. Like you think, oh man, is he really not getting up from this? He's not even like on his knees, and then he just rolls to the outside, and you're like, oh, big brain plays here, boy. Well done. Like that's something that the way you're trying to sell it is like I really couldn't have gotten up if I didn't do this. Like so you're almost like cheating it a bit, but you've got to do that to try to stick in it. Like everything in this was just hard hitting and that, and it'd be interesting to see where this goes for each of them. I feel like Josh should be challenging for the world title certainly after this at some point very soon. I feel like Slammiversary is a good place because hey, Canada is his home country. That makes some sense right there, and whatnot. So we'll have to wait and see about that. But he did pick up the win over Hammerstone in an incredible fight here, with Josh hitting the C4 spike out on the ramp, and Hammerstone unable to get to his feet. After that, you can see a highlight here of the walking weapon driven spine first into the tacks by Hammerstone with his nightmare pendulum off the top of the ropes. This was an insane sort of spot here, which ultimately led to that spot that I talked about where Josh rolled out of the ring to save himself from being counted out. Also, Josh claimed his headgear, but yeah. Jonathan Gresham, rather, had his promos seemingly come to an end, so it seems like he'll be coming back very soon, probably next week, hopefully, or at least hopefully soon. So, yeah. Interesting. Always interesting. And I can't kind of wait to see more of that. We'll see more of that as the days and weeks go by. And, of course, the people who are in attendance at the tapings will probably see it first, and a few people who will read the spoilers will know, but I won't know because I don't read the spoilers. Sometimes they do reach me sometimes, but not very often, which is good. I don't want to know. I want to be surprised because surprises are great. So, yeah. Anyway, Jordan Grace versus SDL here. I feel like a few people were saying that this, like, the ending of this match was kind of overbooked or whatever, and that sort of thing, but I don't know. Like, it was overbooked in some regards, certainly, but I feel like what we got out of it kind of made up for what that overbooking gave. And, like, again, Steph DeLander had her two henchmen, effectively. So, well, Jordan had two henchmen that weren't really her henchmen, but still, like this match did devolve at one point after the referee got knocked down. Despite that, the match before that was quite interesting, with Steph DeLander kind of dominating the match with her power, showing that she's much more powerful in this match than what Jordynne Grace was. And great work. Like, great stuff here. And again, like I think I've said, Steph should stick around. Why not? Like, what else? Like, I know you've got indie dates, but what else are you doing? Like, you can make TNA once a week, and actually be on TV every week rather than just being on the indies and barely getting like a couple hundred fans to arenas and whatnot. And I know some people say, oh, TNA only gets a couple hundred fans to arenas, whatever. But, like, still, they actually have a TV deal every single week, 365, or 52 weeks of the year or whatever it is. So, no one but AEW and WWE and Ring of Honor, technically, which is part of AEW, have that. Even though New Japan technically kind of do have that, mostly it's just taped or filler stuff from their pay-per-views and whatnot. So, yeah. But the finish coming through here, with PCO first coming out to make a save for Jordynne Grace. Steph DeLander tried her womanly ways on PCO, but it was to no avail. But then Khan came down to attack PCO, so it seems like their rivalry really isn't over, which is in some ways good, but it's kind of like PCO is 2-0 against Khan, so it feels really bad for Khan, because it's just like, dude, you've gotten beat at every turn so far, and what else can you do with these two? I don't know. It's going to be tough to figure something out to go along with those two, but after that, the lights went out again. Because when the lights went out the first time, I was like, oh, okay, this is the lights out. And then it was PCO, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, boo earns a bit. The crowd was into it, but I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. You're hyping this thing up, and I thought that this has just blown it. But it was Sami Callihan, and I was like, holy shit. I am glad to see Sami Callihan. He cleared the ring. He helped, Jordan get Steph DeLander back in there and hit her for the race driver and for the win. And then they celebrated with Jordynne Grace in the ring post-match. Here's the highlight of Sami Callihan being back. At first, I didn't even know that he was there. For a second, I was like, wait, is everything the same? And then I was like, wait. Is everything the same? Like, it can't be. Why did the lights go out then? Did somebody miss their cue or something? And then I was like, oh, man. But then it sort of was like, Sammy! Is that Sammy? Who's that in the ring? It's Sammy. Who's that? Sammy. I was like, oh, shit. I was blown away by this, and very happy to see it and whatnot. So, because he's great, and he's like, again, another one that sort of slipped through, and I'm glad to see him back. I'm glad that he's, here. I don't even know how long he's here. I don't even care. But he's here, and, TNA at this point has really made a big statement, even with all of this other shenanigans and whatnot that was involved in this. But still, Sami Callihan's back, and Mike Santana. It's like, holy crap. And I thought that was it with the surprises, but that wasn't it. But we'll talk about that in a minute. I've already talked a little bit about the upcoming Slammiversary, and that video should be live now on the channel. So if you guys want to see a little bit more about my thoughts about the Slammiversary, the 20th Slammiversary coming up in Montreal, Canada, you can go check that video out after watching this one, of course. But still, I need the views, I need the clicks, and I need the subscribe. So please do subscribe, especially if you're watching this long into the video. because 99% of my viewers aren't subscribed. So it'd be nice to keep this channel going and keep everything rolling for you guys and bringing in more content. And I can only do that if you all keep subscribing and helping me out. So yeah, that'd be much appreciated. Nick Nemeth and Moose, the main event for the title. The craziness was, I thought, over. And it mostly was. This was mostly, fairly standard match for the most part. Nemeth getting an early advantage by out-wrestling Moose, using his amateur background at the start. Some shenanigans from the system got them thrown out, sort of mid-ish, I guess early to mid-ish way through this match, which made this a fair match between Moose and Nemeth. I felt like the whole story of this match revolved around Moose's spear. He never seemed to hit the spear throughout this match. Even Nemeth hit the spear in this match to sort of showcase that Moose hadn't hit the spear, and it is kind of was weird that Moose hadn't hit the spear. You kept getting it countered or whatever. Moose hitting a couple great big power bombs though in this match, even one on the outside to the solid ring, entrance ramp apron, which was absolutely devastating. Nemeth with a whole bunch of great offense in here, lots of super kicks and whatnot as well, and DDTs and whatnot. But Moose eventually turned around and hit the spear, which put Nemeth down for the 3 after a little bit of shenanigans. He did try to do the spear 5 or 6 times and missed it. So that was quite there. Also, Nemeth with the 9 elbow drops in the ring, but the 10th one came out outside of the ring. That was a good spot too. But yeah, Moose retained the title here, but that wasn't it. We'll keep talking about that as we see this highlight here of the powerbomb from Moose onto Nemeth on the ramp. Absolutely insane stuff here with that. And still your world champion, Moose. And this was where I was happy, because I was like, oh man, they needed to do this, in my opinion. They I've heard so much time from so many people who will say, and I'll now hear the exact opposite thing from them, but it's going to be very funny to hear that when I can show them their tweets that they were saying, oh, Nemeth shouldn't win this, and they're just going to rely on the ex-WWE guy again, and blah 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 blah, typical TNA stuff, blah blah blah, etc., etc. When they didn't, and they don't, suddenly people go and complain that they're not using the WWE guys the way that they want them to. Except for the fact that just before that, you were saying TNA shouldn't put the title on the ex-WWE guy and should, focus on their homegrown talent. Meanwhile, over in AEW, they're doing that, not focusing on their local handmade talent. They're focusing on these ex-WWE guys. So I don't know. Sounds like they're not learning TNA's lessons more than what TNA is not learning their lessons, in my opinion. But I think it's better to have something like this where the fans are like, oh man, we can't wait to see Dolph Ziggler or whatever. Even though we didn't really get that robbed, we still really want to see him and still think that he has got potential, whatnot in TNA and whatnot, than have someone who, not that he doesn't deserve it, but doesn't deserve it quite yet, take it before the time at which it's probably correct for him to take it. This wasn't, in my opinion, the right time. and it felt like just desserts in a lot of ways for Moose to win it, and it felt like a great story for Nemeth to actually tell now that, hey, well, I came up short. Now what do? I had a good match, and I proved that I could go in there with, the new generation and still kick ass and still probably come close to winning that title. How close am I? Am I all fit just fingertips away? You're almost telling the same story like they told with Jeff Hardy when he was, fingertips away from the title. He was fingertips away from the title. He's 1 second away from the title, blah, 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 that sort of thing. I think that's sort of the direction you want to start to go in. You can't do exactly the same thing, but you can kind of tell that it's very similar and same story. After the match, one final surprise was waiting for us. And I was like, dude, I thought that, we'd already seen the lights out, but they hadn't aired the lights out promo thing. And I thought, well, did that actually matter? But they aired the lights out promo thing. And I was like, wait, what? What is this? Because they'd already had Mike Santana. They'd already had Callahan. And I was like, dude, what else can this be? And it was Broken Matt Hardy. Holy heck. Cool. In some ways, very cool. But, I'm hyped to see Matt, and I'm glad to see him back, and I think that he'll have an alright little program, but I just don't really see him fitting into this, upper scene for too long. I feel like him and possibly someone who's his brother named Nero could be facing for those tag team titles sort of soon, maybe. Who knows? We'll wait and see, but again, I just feel like that's where that they should potentially be right now. You can see the highlight of Matt returning and picking up the knocking Moose down and picking up the TNA title and trying to ward off the system as TNA went off the air. But still, I'm happy to see him. He'll do some good stuff. But again, he's in that bracket definitely now where, hey, he was somebody. He was very hot. He probably wasn't very well used in certain regards. And he probably should have had more success at certain times than others and whatnot. And it wasn't all well thought out by certain people and whatnot, but still, they did what they did at the time that they could do it, and they did the best with what they had. And, politics and all that stuff and whatnot gets in the way sometimes, but hey, it is what it is. But, yeah, I still think this is his time to, go out there, have some last hurrahs, and, go and put some people over because, that's the way of it, sadly. But it'll be great to see him and possibly Brother Nero. I'm crossing my fingers for some Brother Nero action. I kind of think that those guys are almost going to go back to WWE at some point for probably a Hall of Fame induction at some point soon. I wouldn't mind seeing them get a TNA Hall of Fame induction. I think they deserve that. And it's just the right time to sort of do it as well. Like, you could tell that story up to Slammiversary or whatever, I don't know, or even after it, I don't know. That'd be all right still. And we just lost, both the Motor City Machine Guns, so having another tag team in the tag team scene would be good, especially a babyface team to face the system, which it feels like, Matt's on that side right now. And if Brother Nero's coming, hey, he's probably going to be on that side too. So excited to see if Brother Nero is coming with him. You always associate them together, and they're always sort of covertly, for better or worse, joined at the hip. So you just can't count it out. But Jeff is certainly a big prospect even now, even though he's winding down to the edge of his career, these guys are still important and still, worth big bucks. And I don't know their situation with AEW or whatnot and all of that. So maybe some of you can enlighten me, writing your thoughts down there in the comments below. Or is this just a loan from AEW, or what's going on? I don't really know. I wouldn't mind looking it up and seeing more stuff from reports from Sean Ross Sapp or whoever else has some info on this. But we will continue to keep our eyes and ears glued. And man, this show, I don't know if I can. I never rate shows, but this show was really good and really special. It felt as big in many ways as what Hard to Kill did. I think it delivered a little bit better than what Hard to Kill did. I don't think there was quite as much build here, perhaps in some regards, because, the whole lights out thing was kind of announced kind of late, so there wasn't a lot of time for speculation to run wild, but that meant that people couldn't as easily figure it out and only had a couple of days to kind of think about it. So I don't know, but then again, the hype didn't really draw people, so it's sort of a, I don't know, hard situation. But then again, maybe they just made those calls based on saying, well, the tickets aren't selling and we need to do something. We need more of a hook. What can we do? And they probably were in consultation with a few of these guys, or had been in consultation with a few of these guys saying, hey, what will it take to get you in? We want to spend as little as what we can, but we want to get you in, so at least for a little while. And hey, they did that, and they have delivered. So you got to trust Anthem right now, not the system, which I guess they're the system too, but still, until they mess up, until they make a big fumble, I think we'll keep ticking along. I think, again, the whole D'Amore thing was a little bit abrupt and whatnot. It shouldn't have really happened the way it did, but, it is what it is. So yeah, but still, it's great show overall, and I can't wait to review next week. Be sure for you guys to tune in to see that. Hope you have enjoyed this one, and hope you will join me in that, or join me again in another one.